Sentire Media.
Well, hello there, and welcome back to A New Life in Italy, the podcast dedicated to helping you plan and make the move to Italy. I'm your host, Samantha Wilson, and today we're tackling a topic that often confuses newcomers or even those still in the planning stage, and that's the difference between Italian residency and the Permesso di Soggiorno, or the residence permit. Many expats and prospective movers often use these terms interchangeably, but they actually refer to two very distinct legal statuses, each with its own set of applications, its benefits, and responsibilities. Understanding these differences is crucial not only to comply with Italian law, but also to make the most of your life here in Italy. But it's not just the permesso and the residency that's getting foreigners knickers in a knot. It's also the Carta di Identità, all these vital documents that are so important here in Italy. So if you're not completely sure what I'm talking about, or if you know but need a little refresher, today I'm going to spill the beans on what each of these critical documents are, how you get one, who can get them, the order in which you can apply, and finally the benefits that each of them grant. So whether you're just daydreaming about a life in Italy or you're already packing your bags, today's episode will clarify these important concepts and guide you through the application process for each. Are you ready? Let's get started. I'm Samantha Wilson, Chief Dreammaker at smartmoveitaly.com, and this is A New Life in Italy, a show where each week I take you behind the scenes of what it's really like to move to Italy, introduce you to some fascinating people, answer your questions, and show you how starting a new life in Bel Paese is possible for you. So are we really going to be talking about bureaucracy today? Oh my goodness. Well, I know this is a subject that so many of you worry about, so I thought maybe I'd dedicate an episode on some of the more confusing issues of what everybody really needs to go through when they get here. So for those of you who have been through this process, or maybe some of you who are just a few steps in, you already know that Italy's bureaucracy is more than just a little bit challenging. It is completely unpredictable. It's discretionary. It's totally inconsistent. And sometimes it's a bit belligerent even. It's intolerant and really it lacks any sense at all. And all of the rumors and the stories that you have read about are probably true, but the severity of how they're told, however, could maybe just be a reflection on the individual's either ability to cope with all the crazy, or if they had any help or not. And that's what I will start with. My best advice to you, and that of anyone who has made the move, is to get help. Now, I don't mean that you need to hire a service provider, but you need help. So whether that's a friend or a relative or someone who's just volunteering to help you and that speaks Italian and understands the different offices and their role in bureaucracy, because there are so many different offices, there's so many different buildings and authorities that seem to either overlap, duplicate, or that are absolutely dependent on each other, but for some reason, they don't even talk to each other. So without help, I promise you this. I promise you that you will struggle and you will make a lot of mistakes that can cost hours, if not days of your time, not to mention the amount of frustration. And then I always wonder, why would you want to move across the country or across the world, chasing this stress-free, slower pace of life, just to put yourself in a hot pot at the very beginning, full of confusion, when you really don't need to? So remember, you need some help to get through this. But today I am going to help give you just the foundations of these terms and the documents so that you can at least ask for the right thing at the right time. And I'm going to start with the Permesso di Soggiorno. So what is the Permesso di Soggiorno? I'm sure you've heard this term a million trillion times as you're reading through how to move to Italy and talking to other people. Well, the Permesso di Soggiorno is actually the permit to stay, or it's a residency permit. These are terms that will be interchangeable. And it's required for all non-EU citizens who arrive here on a visa and who plan to stay longer than 3 months, so longer than your regular 90 days. It really is your official authorization to live and maybe even work in Italy. Now, you get the Permesso di Soggiorno after you have arrived in Italy on a visa. And you have to apply for this permit, Permesso di Soggiorno, I also call a permit or permit to stay. You have to apply for this within 8 days of your arrival. And it's this permit that allows you to stay in Italy. And the terms or conditions of this permit, this Permesso, are directly attached to and related to the type of visa you have. So oftentimes people confuse the visa or they interchange their visa with their Permesso di Soggiorno. Their visa allows them to get into Italy to apply for the Permesso di Soggiorno. And the terms of the Permesso di Soggiorno will be directly connected to the type of visa you have. For example, if you have an elective residency visa, then your Permesso di Soggiorno will reflect the conditions of the ERV, like you cannot work, you cannot have, or you have to have a certain amount of passive income. All of the conditions that you had to be eligible for to get the ERV will be attached to your Permesso. So you can only stay in Italy as long as you continue to follow those guidelines. So for example, also if you're here on a work visa, you've entered Italy on a work visa, then your Permesso di Soggiorno will reflect the conditions that you're allowed to work, and so on. Now, most permits are valid for 1 year. Some are a little bit different, but generally they're about 1 year in length, and they're renewable. But when you renew, you have to continue to meet the conditions of the original visa. So when people ask, do I have to renew my visa? No, you actually review your Permesso di Soggiorno, which is directly linked to the terms of your visa. So how do you apply for your Permesso di Soggiorno? Well, once you arrive in Italy on your visa, you have to go to the post office and you go to the sportello window and you ask for a kit. Now, I know you're thinking this should be in a little box or something, but it's actually just an envelope filled with a bunch of papers. It's actually the application for the Permesso di Soggiorno. And you will take this kit away first. So as soon as you arrive, maybe the day after when you go for your coffee in the morning, stop by the post office, get this kit, and then go back home and pour a coffee or a stiff drink or whatever you want, because now you have to fill it out. You will bring everything that you used to get your visa, all of the documentation, and because you will need this when you are filling out your Permesso di Soggiorno application. So once you finish this application, you go back to the post office. This term has to be within 8 days. So you have to get the kit, fill it out, and return to the post office to apply for your Permesso di Soggiorno within 8 days. And bring everything with you, again, that you used for your visa, because you'll have to give that to the clerk. Now, in some cases, the clerk will look over your documents really closely and make sure you have everything. And in some cases, they won't. They'll just kind of glance at it. But in any case, what they're going to do is they're going to give you an appointment to attend the questura, which is the Italian immigration office, the police headquarters in the region that you're living in. And that's the office that will continue to process your Permesso di Soggiorno. So you apply for the Permesso di Soggiorno through this kit by filling out the application in this kit and delivering it to the sportello window in the post office where you live. They will give you an appointment to go see the police and finish off the process. Now, in some cities, this appointment can be over a year in the future, and some just a few months, but consider it's going to be quite some time that you have to wait. Now, the day has arrived, perhaps it's a few months or a year in the future, and you need to go and complete the process at the questura, the police department. So you will go there and the immigration office will take your fingerprints and your photographs, and they'll ask you a few questions and go over your application, which they will have from the post office. And then they will say, okay, fine, go. Again, you have to go, and now you have to wait another period of time before you get your card. And your card is like a little credit card. Your Permesso di Soggiorno card is just like a credit card, but it can take a few months to be printed in Rome and then sent to you. Now, once you receive your card, then you're open. You're finished the immigration road, at least. And when you get your Permesso di Soggiorno card, now is the time that you can start to do other things. But You can also now travel to other Schengen regions. Before that time, only with the receipt that you got from the post office, the only travel that you can do is outside of Schengen directly. So from Italy to the UK or to the US or Canada or wherever you're going outside Schengen, you won't be able to travel within the Schengen until you get that card, until you're finished with the process. Now, if you are Italian, you do not need a Permesso di Soggiorno, even if you're an Italian dual citizen, because you don't need a visa. You will skip the Permesso di Soggiorno step all the way through, and you will go straight to the residency process, which is what I'm going to explain next. Residency in Italy refers to registering yourself at an address in an Italian municipality or comune. You've heard them called comune. And it's about where you live and intend to base your life. Think of it more like a census. So the Permesso di Soggiorno is your immigration. It's your legal right to stay here. And then once you have that legal right to stay here, then you can apply for your residency. And you get a lot of rights when you apply for residency, like being able to enroll in the public healthcare system, get your driver's license, buy a car, and in a lot of cases, open a bank. You can't open a bank until you have your residency in most cases these days. So without residency, you're not permitted to do any of those things I mentioned. No healthcare, no driver's license, no car, and probably no bank. And some visas require you to establish residency in Italy, like the ERV, but you cannot establish your residency until you have your Permesso di Soggiorno. One other note about residency that's quite important to some people: if you are importing your personal belongings from your home country to Italy, you're moving all your stuff in a container, you will need to have your residency established before you want to receive those items. Otherwise, you'll have to pay duty. So consider timing here, my friends. Remember, if you're getting a Permesso di Soggiorno, that could take up to a year to get. And then after your Permesso di Soggiorno is when you start the process of residency. And until you have that proof, any items that you bring in that you ship over here to Italy will be charged duty. So consider this in your planning. So when you're registering as a resident in the comune, it's really important to think about the date. And this is because it gives you, it's like the day that the clock starts, that not only gives you all of those benefits I mentioned, but it also means that it is the date of your official tax residency in Italy. So as soon as you're resident, you become a taxable residency immediately. It is also the date that you can start to work towards your 5-year long-term permit. And also, if you're planning to eventually apply for citizenship through naturalization, the clock doesn't start ticking. You're not banking your time until you establish residency. So for some of you who have decided to come here and not go through this process, just kind of hang out on your Permesso di Soggiorno and hope nobody checks that you don't have residency, not only are you giving up the ability and the rights to have a car and your driver's license and healthcare, but you're also not banking any time towards the EU long-term permit, which is 10 years long, as well as your right to citizenship. So you're really losing a lot of time. So it's very important to start this process. You will apply for your residency at the anagrafe office in the comune or the municipality that you live in. And you will need to bring with you your passport, your Permesso di Soggiorno, because you can't become a resident until you have your permit, your health insurance, your bank statements, or proof of income or savings, because you have to show that you can support yourself. You'll also need to show your lease, your residential lease, or your property deed, because you need to have a place that you're living in. So it has to also be habitable. It cannot be, just some place that's it's a complete ruin that you're planning to renovate. It actually has to be a place that you can live in. Now, at the anagrafe office, the clerk will register, take all your documents, register everything, and give you a receipt. Now, you have to wait for the police now to make a check and make sure that you actually do live at the address that you provided. And how they do that is the cops will come and knock on your door. They have 45 days to do that. Now, sometimes they will come at any time, day or night. You never know when they're going to arrive because they're supposed to be surprising you to make sure you're really there. So you should probably stick around somewhere close to home just until this check has been completed. In some cases, just in some cases, often in very busy places, the police never get to your house. Even after 45 days, they're never even there. So what do you do then? Well, what that means is that you are automatically confirmed as a resident if the police never came in and checked. After either the police have come, knocked on the door, looked at your house, asked you a few questions, signed a form and left, or it's been 45 days and they've never been there, then you can return back to the anaggraphy office and say, okay, I want my official residency document, and finalize the process. And at this time, you can also apply for the next step, which is to apply for your Carta di Identità. All right, so we're almost there. We have our Permesso di Soggiorno, we have our residency, and now we need to get our identity card, our Italian identity card. Now, this is an ID card that has your codice fiscale on it, also has your address, and it's an important document that you have, and you will use it quite a bit in Italy, actually, as your ID. It is not, if you're on a visa, the Carta di Identità is not a travel document, so you do still need to keep your passport with you, but it is a document that you will use on many, many occasions. And you can apply for this Carta di Identità at the time that you pick up your final residency papers, because it's the same office that will give this to you. It's not a really difficult process, but it is a process all the same. What you normally do is show your ID, your passport, and of course your Permesso di Soggiorno and your address if they ask you for, and then they will complete the application for you online. All Carta di Identità, all of the cards, just like your Permesso card, is printed in Rome. So again, you're going to have to wait some weeks or maybe even a month for this card to arrive. So now you'll have two cards in your wallet. You'll have your Permesso di Soggiorno and you will have your Carta di Identità. All right, you are almost there. So you have your Permesso di Soggiorno, you have your residency, and now you have your Carta di Identità. Now, how long did all of this process take? I know you're thinking about this. Well, the process from start to finish, so when you arrive, remember you have to start the process within 8 days of your arrival, to the very end till you have that happy Carta di Identità in your hand, this whole process can take over a year to complete in some places, sometimes a year and a half. Now, if you're here on an investor visa, good news is that the process in itself can only take a month or a couple of months to finish everything because everything is fast-tracked. But on most occasions, all other visas, it can take you about a year or more to complete the process. But once you have all those critical documents, you will find the rest of the bureaucracy because, there's more. But we're not going to go into everything today. But there is more things. There are many things you'll have to do here. And you will need those 3 pieces of ID and documentation in order to get past the walls that will be put in front of you. So it's super important that you follow those steps and you get all of those documents done. Now, we've been through hundreds and really hundreds of residency applications for our clients all over Italy. And from this experience, I can tell you that there are some things that will make it easier on you. First of all, make sure that your documents are ready and that you have lots of copies. So everything you use for your visa, make sure you have extras and you've made copies because you'll need them again here in Italy. And actually, one of our clients had the great suggestion, I'm going to pass it on to you, was to when you arrive here, one of the first things you should buy is a printer and lots of ink because you will be printing a lot of things. And number 2, expect the unexpected. I say this all the time in Italy, but when you're going through the bureaucracy, this is when it gets really heavy and really challenging. Every comune is different. Every questura is different. Even if they're supposed to follow the same laws and the same procedures, they often don't because there's so much discretion and so many people at every level have decision-making power. They may ask you for different documents or they have a different process or tell you to go to a different office that all of a sudden doesn't make any sense. It just is the way it is where you are. So just follow those instructions. Don't think about what someone else did because that doesn't matter. All that matters is what they're telling you that you need to do in order to complete these processes in the place that you are living. Now, number 3, keep a document folder of all of your documents with you at all times, like an accordion folder or the ones with the elastics around them. Always keep this full of all of your documents with copies, and anytime you do anything with bureaucracy in Italy, bring that folder with you. It'll become almost like your purse, I promise you. Even if you think you don't need a document, bring everything with you to every appointment. I promise you, this will save you more times than you think. Now, number 4, make an appointment for all of these appointments, if you can, in advance. This will save you a ton of time. It's supposed to, I should say, save you a ton of time, but be prepared to even show up and still have to wait, especially those days that you have to go and pick up your Permesso di Soggiorno when they tell you, hey, finally that card is ready. Go back to the questura and pick it up. This can take you hours sometimes. Some cities, like Florence, for example, you can stand outside in line for 4, 5, 6 hours just to pick up your card. And number 5, finally, and I'm going to say it again, get help. And I really mean that. Even if it's just a friend or a relative that understands the systems and the processes, and of course, speaks Italian, this really will make your life so much easier, and you will avoid any mistakes or stalled processes. And I'm telling you that this happens a lot because we get a lot of people that eventually come to us because they've tried it themselves without help, and there's a bit of a mess to clean up. So just get it done the right way at the first time so that you can go on and enjoy all the reasons that you moved here and forget about all of this bureaucracy stuff. So to wrap up, obtaining your Permesso di Soggiorno and registering for residency are critical steps in making your dream in Italy a reality. But every one of them serve different purposes, and it's vital for legally residing and integrating into Italian society. Now, for a little bit of inspirational quote from somebody named Barry Findley, what he said was, every mountaintop is within reach if you just keep climbing. And that is so perfect when you're thinking about bureaucracy. When you just are standing there and you're just fed up and you want to walk away, hang on and just keep climbing, because I promise you, you'll get there. It's time for listener questions. Just like the old radio call-in shows, my team has picked 3 listener questions, all left on our voicemail. I have no idea what these questions are, but I haven't been stumped yet. Are you ready? Let's get started.
Hi, Samantha. This is Nancy from Washington State in the U.S. I am in the planning stages of retiring in Italy, looking for that perfect 7% flat tax town. And this will be in a couple of years. My question, though, is if I wait and sell my house after I move to Italy, after I have the ERV, will I owe capital gains in Italy? Thank you. Love your show.
Hello, Nancy, and congratulations on your move, especially down to the 7% area. It's gorgeous down there, especially this time of year. All right, good question, actually. And I can tell you that we have advised lots and lots of our clients, actually our Commercialista has, if you can sell your property prior to moving to Italy, this is always a better idea. Because cash in the bank is only taxed, I think it's 34 euros per bank account. Where if you've made a gain before you, and you're resident of Italy, but you have a gain from an asset somewhere else, you can be taxed here in Italy as well. So it's always better to, if that's your plan, to get rid of that before you become a resident. Remember in this podcast what timing that is. So that could be a little ways down the road. But make sure it's done before you become a taxable resident.
Hi, Samantha. My name's Oriana. I'm looking for a long-term rental in Italy, and I'm wondering what the average commission rate is. I want to research a bit first before hiring anyone to make sure I'm not being overcharged as a non-Italian, if that does happen there. Thanks so much.
Hi, Oriana. Really good question. And it's one that I think people from other countries don't realize, not just in Italy, but I know in France and Spain and all the other countries in Europe. When you go to rent a property through an agency, you will pay typically 1 month's equal to 1 month's rent in commission. And sometimes there's minimums as well. So if you're renting, a 500 euro apartment, sometimes you'll have a minimum of, 1,000 euros or a percentage of the rent to pay as commission to the agency. And this is perfectly normal. Now, what you also have to remember is that the commission that you pay is plus VAT, so plus tax here. Tax is 22%, so that can add a lot to your budget as well. So keep that in mind. Now in Italy, in the north, typically in the north, sometimes in some of the bigger cities as well, agencies will do a percentage instead of a flat fee. So the percentage often is 10 to 15% of the yearly rent. And that's not, you don't pay that every year. It's just a one-time payment, but they calculate how much your rent is over the year. And it's between 10 and 15% is the commission that you'll pay plus VAT. So make sure that you factor that into the budget. In most cases, you will probably use an agency because it's very difficult to rent as a foreigner, and to find rentals privately is even more difficult, unless you know someone, of course, that can help connect you.
Hi, Samantha. I know I'm not able to get Italian citizenship through descent because my Italian-born father naturalized to Canada before I was born. But I recently read that because he was born in Italy, I can apply for citizenship after 3 years of residency. Is this correct?
Hello, and good question. Actually, the citizenship law says that you can only claim your citizenship through jur sanguinis, so that means through blood, if you were born to an Italian person. So if your ancestor naturalized became Canadian before you were born, you were actually born to a Canadian person. Therefore, you can't claim it through jur sanguinis. However, the nice thing is that if you move to Italy, you can, and live here, you'll need a visa to do this first because you're not Italian. So if you get a visa and you move and you reside in Italy, establish residency, so the clock starts. And after 3 years of residency, you can apply for Italian citizenship through naturalization. So it's fast-tracked for you if it's your parent or your grandparent that actually did the naturalization, breaking the line. Normally, people who move here, if you're an European citizen, after residency, after 4 years of residency, a European can then apply for their Italian citizenship through naturalization. If you're not European, you need 10 years of time before you can apply for your Italian citizenship. So although your family broke the line, unfortunately, you can actually fast track it a little bit and after 3 years apply. Well, that's all for this week's episode. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions about visas, citizenship, property, and well, really anything about moving to Italy that you would like me to answer in an upcoming episode, please feel free to send us a voicemail at our website at smartmoveitaly.com/podcast, or just click on the links in the show notes. Thanks again for listening, and remember, you can find all of the resources and the links to the people and the places that I mentioned in this episode inside the show notes. Ciao for now. A New Life in Italy podcast is a production of Sentire Media, created and hosted by me, Samantha Wilson. Production by London Nero, and with special thanks to Ali Frothingham, Sofia Pisana, and the entire team at Sentire. Follow A New Life in Italy wherever you get your podcasts. And hey, if you're thinking of moving to Italy, whether full-time, part-time, or for a lifetime, come and see me over at smartmoveitaly.com and we'll help you get here and start living your best life. And don't forget, if you love this episode, please rate and leave a review. It's much appreciated. I can't wait to meet up with you again next week, same time, same place. Ciao for now.
Sentire Media.
Hey, podcast producers and show hosts. Do you want to join a podcast network that celebrates all things Italian? At Sentire Media, we understand the allure of Italy and its unique culture. Our devoted team of hosts and producers are all driven by their shared passion for Italy. And we work tirelessly to create the best lifestyle podcasts and content that will whisk you away to the very heart of Italy. With us, you can savor the mouth-watering flavors, get lost in the stories from the past, break down the cultural barriers, and truly immerse yourself in the vibrant traditions of this intoxicating country. If you have a great podcast idea or are already in production and would like to join Sentire Media, head over to sentiremedia.com, that's SENTIRE media.com, and find out how to submit your show.